Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Faith Fitness and Fastballs. I have my man, Kolton Ingram, here with me. Kolton, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Good, good. How's the offseason been treating you?
It's been good. Just getting the body back in shape and, trying to get healthy for next year and make sure it stays that way.
Yeah, exactly. Health is the biggest thing. I completely,
Yeah.
especially for pitchers, so I completely understand that. Quick, small little, I guess, background with Kolton. He played high school ball with my brother at Luella, the same high school I went to, and a couple people who are also on this podcast. End up going to Columbus State at a high school and had a great career there, and got drafted, and eventually made it to the big leagues. And that's really what I would have talked to him about. Just his walk through everything. So going back to you, man, just start with your high school career. What you were like then, and just everything you experienced at that time.
Yeah. So, like you said, I went to Luella High School. Kind of played a couple different sports.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball was obviously the one I loved the most, but it was actually not the one I was the best at.
Mm.
So, out
Which
of all the
one were you the best
sports,
at?
I cheered in high school.
Oh, I remember. You're right. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
Yep.
Wow,
And
how
so
was that?
I loved it. Like a lot of people gave me kind of, crap for it, but
Right.
I loved it. I got to like really experience being a complete athlete.
Yeah.
So it was really fun. It actually, to me, I felt like it really shot my baseball career in the right path. I, it was a different training method than I was exposed to when I was younger, because
Mm-hmm.
when I was going through high school and with you, that was before all these like baseball facilities popped up
For
and
sure.
training facilities and all these things. So cheerleading kind of gave me that stepping block for explosive power, stretching, mobility, all
Right.
the things that are hammered nowadays.
Right.
I got that through cheerleading.
Now, were you doing cheerleading just in high school, or were you doing it before then?
I did it before then. I
Okay.
cheered only in high school. I did
Okay.
gymnastics, did things like that. But
Got it.
um, the base foundation of that was me doing backflips off the air conditioning unit at the
Wow.
house and
Okay.
trampolines and stuff. Just um, but yeah, like being able to really experience with like learning mobility, learning how to stretch properly, learning,
Right.
all these movements really set myself up. And when I was in high school, I think I graduated high school at 5'6", like 125 pounds, 130
Yeah, you were
pounds.
small. You were small, man, back then.
Yeah, I was tiny, man. I was tiny. I hit puberty probably at 16, but I didn't really hit any growth spurts or anything.
Yeah.
Um, so I was definitely what they call a late bloomer,
Mm-hmm.
but I was a super late bloomer.
Yeah.
So I think being 24 years old was the first time I hit 90 miles an hour.
Jeez,
So
man.
super late. And so in high school, I was always a better hitter, I felt like, than a pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And so but I was too small. I was too, I didn't pass the eye test for colleges,
For
a lot
sure.
of things. I was fast, but I was never viewed as a pitcher. I didn't throw hard. I think I topped out at like 78 my senior year of high school, like just not
Wow.
throwing. So actually, I was looking at schools to go academically and then for cheerleading.
Okay.
Baseball wasn't even in the realm of possibility, I thought. And then playing summer ball, we went and played at Columbus State or Golden Park in Columbus.
Okay.
And I had one of the coaches said they liked my slider.
Okay.
And so I, got to go on like a visit there and threw a bullpen, and they didn't really offer me any money. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
walk on. It was like a
Okay.
preferred walk on.
So you were a preferred walk-on at Columbus State.
Yeah.
Okay.
So got the preferred walk on, and then I really sat down and had to think about it, because when they told me how much money they were offering, I think it was like $500 a semester,
Yeah.
which anybody knows nowadays that doesn't even cover books.
No, not even.
So I had to really sit down and have a conversation with my parents and kind of decide which career path I wanted to. I could go to Columbus State, play baseball, and get a decent education, or I could go somewhere like Alabama or
Mm-hmm.
Georgia or somewhere like these places and maybe cheer and get a really good education, but that's it.
Yeah.
Baseball's done.
Baseball's over. Yeah.
So, sat down, thought about it, and was like, man, am I really ready for baseball to be over? Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I had so much more to give.
For
So
sure.
I actually decided to take Columbus State up on that offer, and
Mm-hmm.
and then that's when I transitioned into college.
Nice,
So,
man. So which is good, man. And you know what's crazy? Like I remember because obviously you, my brother played. I remember like when I was not at school or or playing myself, I would watch and come to y'all's games, and you were always able to pitch though. Like from what I remember, you didn't walk that many guys. You threw a lot of strikes, and you were a good pitcher. Obviously the velo wasn't there at the moment, but from what I remember, you guys, were able to have some success because kind of what you said, you were a late bloomer. My brother was too. I mean, he was the same. I mean, he was maybe like low 80s, maybe mid 80s, in high school, and kind of the same. He just 24, 25 is where he started to see his body change a little bit. So but going back to you, with you got to Columbus State. You're a freshman there now. What is that? What is that like?
So it was crazy because, like, obviously going to college for baseball, and it was me and Bryant
Mm-hmm.
were the only ones that were going to college for baseball at the time.
Right.
And so, like, and he was going to Tennessee.
Right. Exactly.
So it was kind of crazy. We're sitting in the signing room, and like he's going to Tennessee. Like, that's a big deal. And then I'm going to Columbus State. Not many people know about it.
Right.
But then you get to college, and like I would consider myself one of the better ones on the team in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to college and you realize all these kids were the best kids on their team.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it's even more amplified going to Tennessee, like you guys did. And like you get there and you're the top of your high school. And now you're with everybody that was the top of their high school.
Yeah. On top of that, you have 22, 23-year-olds as well that, who have been playing ball for a while, and maybe they had success in college. Maybe they, were, conference, player of the year or whatever. So, you're facing guys who, like you said, have all the success. I mean, I played with a guy who won 3 state championships. I also played with another guy from Georgia who leads to, Georgia in home runs. We had another guy who was second in Georgia. Like, so everybody had something they did in high school.
Oh yeah. And you always meet someone better than you.
Oh, so for sure.
Like, I got to college and I seen the talent level that was around me. And I just remember sitting in my room and like really looking in the mirror, like, dude, am I good enough for this?
Yeah.
Like, like contemplating if I made the right decision.
Right.
And so I actually like sat down and was like, well, if I don't think I'm good enough, we're going to have to come up with a plan to make me good enough.
For sure.
And going to a D2 college, like, grateful for the opportunity, grateful for the experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world, but they don't really necessarily have the resources to really like make you better.
Right. For
like,
sure.
Not in the sense that like is going to skyrocket you to prospect draft boards. So I had to find a way to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so my freshman year, I was like, I think I threw 28 innings or something like that. Like, I was the guy out of the bullpen, but I didn't start. I didn't do any of that. But I remember working like every single day and night, just obsessing over pitching, obsessing over mechanics and everything. And then we got the conference tournament towards the end of the season, and our starter got knocked out in the first inning. And so I came in and threw like 7 2/3 scoreless innings against like North Georgia, which was the top team in our conference at that time.
Right.
And we won the conference tournament.
Nice.
We did lose that game, but had I not been able to throw that many innings, we would have been burnt on pitching the rest of the week.
Right. Exactly.
And so, we made it to a regional, got knocked out, and then we had our exit meetings. And my coach was like, like what you threw in that conference tournament, like that shows me that you're ready to take on a starting role next year. But see, I wasn't really sure what that meant, because that could have meant midweek, weekend, and we were returning all 3 of our weekend starters the next year.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I can be a midweek starter and like show them that I'm ready to step into that role.
For sure.
So sophomore year, I did that, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being undersized. I'm tired. That's when I really like fell in love with the weight room. And so every morning at 5 a.m., I was beating our hitters to the weight room. Nice. They had morning workouts at 6.
Yep.
And pitchers didn't have morning workouts.
Okay.
So I made it a point to beat them to the weight room at 5 a.m. to get my work in, and I was leaving when they were walking in.
Right, for sure.
So that's when I got invested, and then I led the country in the ERA title that year.
Oh wow! And
in Division II.
And going back to you being in the weight room, did you after you did that? I'm assuming for the whole fall and going into the season, did you see the change in your body? Like, did you see the fruits of your labor once you did that?
Yeah. So I was probably, I think I got to college. So in between high school and my freshman year of college, I grew 5 inches.
Okay.
Like I was in pain. So it, I grew pretty quick. So I went from like 78 to, I'd probably say like 82, 83.
Yeah.
And then by my sophomore year, when I had tackled the weight room, was taking care of my body, making sure that I was eating the right foods. I think I jumped up to like 85, 86 that year. And that's when I like solidified the midweek role, and, was really focusing on attacking hitters. And like you said earlier, like I've always known how to pitch.
Right.
I didn't really have the stuff to like use that to like my greatest advantage. So now that I had the velo, all of my breaking, pitches, speed went up, made those better. And I played summer ball in the Coastal Plains League,
which is a very good league.
Really good. I got invited to go play there. Pitched pretty well. Probably, that was jumping into a new group of talent. So like now I'm facing dudes that are like, but they may not be starters at Tennessee or Georgia, but they're like redshirt freshmen, but they were good enough to go there. So like now I'm facing these dudes and like learning how to pitch against these dudes. And then junior year came around and I kept the same kind of schedule, 5 a.m. workouts, working my butt off.
Yep.
And I earned the Friday night role.
Nice.
For CSU. And then from there, I had a really good year. I think I was like first team All-American. We went to the final game in the World Series in Cary, North Carolina. So like overall, it was just like a really good year personally and for the team.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of put my name on the map. And then I think by then I was like 87 to 88.
Right.
But then I got complacent my junior year, summer. I didn't play because I threw 140 innings.
Yeah. Ooh.
And in college, that is a lot of innings.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm not playing summer ball this year. I need to give my arm a break.
Yeah.
But what I didn't do is I didn't keep working. So like I just took the whole summer off. Like didn't work out.
Yeah.
Didn't like do any of that stuff because I had such a good year my junior year. I was like, I'm good. Like,
yeah. You figured out the league, like this is your third, you had 3 years and now your senior year, you're confident that you're going to do what you need to do.
Exactly. So I had finally had some like success. I saw the fruits of my labor, things like that. And so I went into my senior year and we're coming off a World Series. I'm coming off a, All-American. I'm just like top of the world. Right.
Yeah.
And then I stopped the 5 a.m. workouts. I didn't really stay on top of my routine. I didn't eat as good. I probably drank more than I should have, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my senior year, spring rolled around. I'm the Friday guy. And I get hurt 3 weeks into the season.
Oh, man. What'd you do?
I had medial epicondylitis, which is like extreme inflammation in my UCL joint.
Oh, okay.
And so I missed 6 weeks because of that. And before this, I've been hearing from a couple scouts about potentially getting drafted in like the late 20s, early 30s. Yeah. And then those just went away.
That went away, gone.
Real quick. And I had scouts texting my coach, like, why is he missing? Why is he missing? Yeah. So I missed 6 weeks. And then I came back and didn't pitch the way that I had pitched the year before. And I kept comparing. Like I would go home every night and say, okay, I need to throw this many scoreless innings to get my ERA down to this. Like I got to punch out this many guys to
baseball
get back
calculator.
To my strikeouts.
We all do. Hey, man. Hey, I feel you on that because we've all been there. You know how many times where I'm batting this hard. I need to get 2 hits today and then 2 hits tomorrow to get back to this. And now you're playing catch up, and weeks go by. You're just like, okay, like what am I doing?
Yep. And then guess what? You don't get those 2 hits, and
No.
now you're in your head.
Yeah. So now I got to change
Exactly.
something.
So I come out of an outing where I'm like giving up 4 runs. I'm like, well, there's my season. Like,
Yeah.
my ERA shot, season's over. But then I remember my last like 2 outings I had, like, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get up there and throw as hard as I can.
Yeah.
So I was like 88. I think I might have touched a 90.
Yeah.
And a scout saw me, and and I'm actually after the season's over, because D2 season ends like a month before the draft. Well,
Okay.
not now since the draft was moved up, but the
Right.
draft used to be until like mid-June, like early June.
Yeah.
And so I got a job working as like with a contracting company through a friend in Columbus, and I was working that job, wasn't throwing, my arm was killing me, like took some time off, and then the draft came around, and I knew I wasn't going in the first day because that's the first round.
Right.
And then I knew I wasn't really going to go the second day because that was 2nd through 10th rounds.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd day rolled around, and I remember on my way home from work, and I kept feeling like ghost buzzes in my phone.
Yeah.
Like every time the phone would go off, I'm thinking it's somebody, and like it
Yeah.
hit like probably like the 32nd round, 33rd round, no phone call. And I was like, man, this could be it.
Yeah.
And so I called my mom, told her it probably wasn't happening. She started crying. I cried.
Yeah.
And then just sitting on the couch, and they called me in like the 35th round. They're like, hey, this is the Detroit Tigers, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're going to take you with the 37th round. And so that changed.
That changed the game. Yeah. How'd you feel at that moment after for a split second feeling like, hey, like baseball career is probably over, to now I got new life? How did you feel in between that time period?
Well,
or I guess once you got drafted, how did you feel then?
Oh, it was, I mean, it's such a surreal feeling to like hear your name being called like that.
Yeah.
Or at the time, like they don't really say it on TV anymore.
Right.
But you see it on Twitter, or like you see it,
they tweet it, and then the draft post thing, you see it more so than hear it.
Yeah. And so like hadn't really sunk in yet. Like a couple of my buddies were getting off work, so we all went to dinner that night. It was really cool. And then I think I reported probably 2 to 3 weeks after that down to Florida.
In Lakeland?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you get there, man, and it starts the process all over.
It starts over, yeah. So let's go there. So you had the success you had a lot of success in college, and then you got to your senior year, and didn't go so well. You got new life, getting drafted. You get there that first week of because I know how my first week of pro ball was, and I'm assuming, and I can only imagine most people who get into pro ball have this same feeling. But what was your first week of okay, I'm here?
I don't belong. Dude, I'm seeing I'm at this point, I'm 5'9", like 160 pounds. And you walk in and you're seeing these 6'5", 6'4" dudes, they're all 94, 95.
Yeah.
And I know that at that point I'm only 88, 90.
Yeah.
Small little lefty. I'm looking around the room, I'm like, dude, these guys probably think I suck. I'm like, my arm is still kind of hurting.
So okay. Yeah.
I'm just in my head about all that. I'm just like, dude, we're going through all of our fitness tests and power tests and speed tests. And I'm just not there. I'm not these guys are just blowing me out of the water. And I'm like, oh my God. So in a way, looking back on it, it was definitely an eye opener.
For sure.
Because it's okay, now I know how good I need to be.
Yeah.
So it was the same kind of process in college where it was you walk in, you see people better than you. You're like, okay, I got 1 or 2 options. You quit right now or you get better.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I chose the second route. So
good. So that first year, where did you start that year? Did you start in in rookie ball, or where were you at?
Yeah. So when they called me and drafted me and all that stuff, they're like, yeah, you're older. I think I was 23 at the time. And they were like, yeah, you're a 4-year college guy. We're probably going to send you to short season.
Yeah. Y'all was in Connecticut?
Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah. Because we were in the same league, in the New York Penn League.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I was sick. I get down there, and I spent all 2.5 months in the GCL. And I think I threw 33 innings, 32 innings. And through 30 innings, I had a like 0.6 ERA.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I was doing really well, but I wasn't moving.
Yeah.
And obviously now that I'm in the big leagues and have seen that and gone through every level, and you learn how an organization works and how people are being evaluated, and it's not on results. So in my head at the time, I'm like, dude, why am I not moving? Like,
Right.
I don't even get to go to short season.
Right.
And now, and it's like, dude, I'm striking guys out. I'm not walking guys. I'm not giving up any runs. But you're a 5'9" lefty throwing 88. Like, you're not projectable. You're not, we don't see any value out of you. Sending you to short season is going to do what? Like looking back on it now, it's like, you just weren't good enough. Like, your stuff didn't project. They have all these metrics now that says like this fastball plays here, curveball plays here. Well, I didn't have any of that. I didn't have any projectability, none of that. But in my head, I'm playing GM. I'm like,
we all did. That's another thing we all did. It's the worst thing to do, but we all do it, man.
Yeah, you can't help it.
No, that's true. You can't. That's true.
Politics get into it, and you're like, dude, this 22nd rounder is got a 7 ERA in the GCL, but he's going to short season. And I'm sticking in GCL, and it's like, why? You start getting in your head.
And bro, and because I was unfortunate enough to, when I got sent to low A, my second year, I started the season like 2 for 37. So we're like, hey, we're gonna send you to the GCL and work this guy, and you get to play in the games. I want you to, because I know how the GCL was for me. What was the schedule like for people who are in the GCL?
You wake up at 7 a.m. and you're supposed to be like breakfast, ready to go, stretched out, all that by 9.
Yep.
So we'd get to the facility. They don't really tell you how to stretch, how to work out, how to do any of that. So it's all on your own. Yeah. And I came from a D2 school, so we didn't do any of that in the first place.
Yeah, right.
We didn't have strength coaches. We didn't have routines. We didn't have any of that. So I'm like kind of just looking around, seeing what like other guys are doing to try to like, and it was a blessing because the guys that I was with, like the draft class that I was with, was awesome. Like those guys like helped me out. Like I became friends with a couple of them and kind of was like telling them up front, like, look, I don't have anything. Like I don't. Can I please pick y'all's brains about stuff? Right. So that was good. I got to do some of that and found my own routine.
Good.
Pitched that season, did fine. I think, and then my last 3 innings, I started the game and gave up like 6 runs, and it jumped my ERA. And I was like, well, that's the end of that. And then we went back to spring training. I'd worked my butt off that off season. I'd gotten up to like 92, 90.
Okay.
And COVID hit. So we were down there for like not even a week, like maybe 3 days. I had thrown one bullpen, not even on like a Rapsodo, a TrackMan, just a bullpen. So the Tigers have no idea what I did in the offseason. And like they don't know that I'm not throwing as slow anymore. I'm not like, doing all these things. And so COVID hit, we all came back home. And then probably 2 months later, I get a phone call saying like, hey man, we're going to have to let you go. Like we're going to have to, we just don't think this is right for us or you. So we're just going to have to let you go. Brother, I thought my world ended.
It happens. Same here, bro. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow for whoever that happens to. So for you got the call, you got released. In the Cardinals organization, we called it the Grim Reaper. And whether it's in spring training or through the phone, the Grim Reaper it gets most of us. So you got you thought by the Grim Reaper. What was your thought process after? Well, how did you take it at first, and then what was your thought process after?
So I was at home, and they gave me the call or whatever, and I just remember we got a patio on the back porch, and I'm just sitting on the patio. Like, I have an agent at the time, so I'm like talking to my agent, and he was pretty straight up with me. He was like, look, man, and he kind of just told me exactly what I just told you. You're unprojectable. you don't throw very hard. You're a late round pick. You didn't
Yep.
sign for much money.
Yep.
And
all that plays too. All that plays.
It plays. That means they don't have that much invested in you. They can cut their losses because they only gave me like $1,000.
Yeah.
So that was an easy cut.
For sure.
But yeah, I just remember sitting there, and I probably moped around for like 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Just like didn't know what to do, didn't know which direction I wanted to go with this.
Yeah.
And this is living in Hampton at the time with my parents. Mm-hmm. And then so my agent just told me, he was like, look, you're gonna have to like throw harder. Like that's the only way you're gonna get back in this thing.
Wow.
Which I knew that answer.
Right.
I just like, needed to hear it,
Yeah, for sure.
And so I had to make a decision. So I called the facility that I worked out the previous off season in Columbus, Georgia.
Okay.
And my dad lives in Phoenix City, which is right over the line. And I called him. I was like, well, I can't go down there and not have any money. So like, I called the facility. He offered me a job to work out there for free, train, throw, all that stuff. But I have to like give lessons and run baseball side and all that thing.
Yep.
So that's what I did.
Yeah.
But over COVID, I had been working for those 2 or 3 months before they released me, and I had gotten up to 94.
Wow.
Just like eating a lot, working out a ton, learning my body. I was researching, like my degree in college was in kinesiology. So like I was really using that and like diving into like what I need to do, understanding physics, just diving, nerding out completely on
for sure.
And so I had a decision to make. And so I took that decision and I moved down to Columbus, left all of my friends back in Hampton, Henry County, and pretty much went ghost for 3 months, 4 months, and just tried to, I lived with my dad, I worked. So my schedule was, my dad owns a pool business.
Okay.
So I would wake up in the morning at 6 a.m., work with him from 6 to 11 to make money.
Yep.
Train from 11 to 2. And then I would immediately have my first lesson at 2:30. So I would give lessons and run baseball camps from 2:30 to 8 p.m.
Ooh.
I would get done at 8 p.m., wouldn't even go home. I would immediately jump in my car and start door dashing.
Oh, man.
So I wasn't getting home until 11:30. Got 30 minutes to play video games, and then I go back to bed and wake up.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that was your week for those 3 months, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was a grind. I mean, I remember being like so mentally drained and physically drained. Like, is this even worth it?
Yeah. I mean, you're working in the mornings. You're working out from 11 to 2. You're doing your lessons from 2 to 8. And then your door dash from 8 to however long, just to make ends meet, just to chase a dream that you don't even know is going to happen. Yeah, exactly. I would be drained too. That's draining.
Yeah, so I mean, there were so many times I thought about just hanging it up and being like, you know what, I could go back to school. My college coach, we had already talked about me being like a GA and like getting my foot in the door with coaching and stuff like that. So that was weighing heavy on me. But then I get a phone call from my buddy who was working out with me. He goes, hey, this independent ball team wants to sign you. And I'm like, okay. Called my agent, was like, hey, what are the odds that I play affiliated ball this year? And he goes, man, like, you just don't really have the stats. Yeah. Because no team values GCL stats.
Right, for sure.
Like, they just don't. And so he goes, you're just going to have to go somewhere to put up some stats, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. I signed with this independent ball team. And I think that was in like January I signed with them.
And where were you playing at? Where at?
Sioux Falls Canaries in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the American Association.
American, okay.
And then I keep working out, keep throwing bullpens, and I get a call from Sean McLaughlin. I don't know him at this point.
Okay.
Like, I had put a video out on Twitter of me throwing.
Okay.
It was an awful video, awful recording. It looked like those videos that like your mom is recording through the fence at a ball game, like just not good quality. But I was throwing 94, 93, 94 with good breaking balls. And I guess somehow Sean or somebody saw it and called me and goes, hey, I have a friend with the Angels that wants to see you on a track man. Can you come up to Atlanta to throw a bullpen? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
So I go there. I'm like 93, 94. And he goes, okay, come back next week. We have a pro day that we want you to throw in. I'm like,
Okay.
sick.
Yeah.
So I come up there and I faced 7 batters and punched out 6 and was like 4-6.
Ooh, okay.
And because the adrenaline, I hadn't faced anybody in months.
Oh,
so
so
like,
you were letting it eat.
I was letting it eat, and I was so pumped and so amped because like this was my shot. Like,
Yeah, this
this is it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't know, like it took me another year for me to pop another 6, but like
Yeah, but you did it at the right time though.
I did. And so I think the Angels on my ride home, they call me. Sean calls me and goes, "Hey, there's a couple of teams that are interested in you, but I get a call from the Angels pitching coordinator, and he goes, we're going to bypass all of our area scouts and we're going to sign you right now because we don't want you to go to the next pro day
Exactly.
and get seen by other teams."
Isn't it funny how that works out?
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, call my agent back. And again, he was like, this might be the only opportunity you get back into affiliated ball.
Facts. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And they were like, we're going to sign you to a 1-year deal, see how it works out. And I was like, say less.
Yep. So I'm there.
I signed for that night. So I signed the paperwork, and that was probably 2 weeks before spring training. And so I had to call the independent ball coach and say, hey man, like I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
And he goes, no man, like this is what we do it for, like to get you back to affiliated ball. So I did all that, show up to spring training, and it was funny because they had seen my metrics. They had seen the velo and all that stuff. They didn't know how tall I was.
Wow.
So because my release height was so low, they thought I was a sidearm pitcher.
Okay.
But then they saw how tall I was, and they were shocked.
Like, how did that conversation come about? Like, did they just like see you and were like, oh wow, like how did that happen?
So they never told me. They told Sean. They were like,
okay.
They were like, dude, you didn't tell us how big he was. And he was like, well, what did you expect? Like, you know, and they were like, well, we kind of thought he was like low 3/4 because of where he was releasing the ball, blah, blah, blah. And, but it actually worked in my benefit because now because of my height, I naturally create such a good approach angle. Like that I don't try to do. It's just because I'm short.
Yeah. It just happens for you.
Yeah. That it worked out in my favor. And so you never hear that growing up. You're like, the big dudes get the chances, like all this stuff with all the analytics coming out nowadays. If you're short and throw hard, that's better than being tall and throwing hard.
Wow. I learned something new.
With some metrics. Now,
yeah, for sure.
Projectability with bigness and size and all that stuff is probably better, but analytically, it played better because I was short.
Okay. Wow.
So it was a crazy like turn of events, and then I went into spring training, and I don't think I gave up a run all spring training.
Wow. Wow.
So,
where did you start off that season?
Low A.
Okay.
So
where's that? Is that Burlington or where's that at?
It used to be Burlington, but then so 2-3 years ago they switched. They got rid of that league.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And they made the California League Low A.
Okay, and the ball flies out in California League, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of elevation. And so I went to San Bernardino, California, and that was the Inland Empire 66ers.
Yep, you're right. Okay.
And so I spent a month there, and I was throwing hard. I was 94, 95, throwing plenty hard. And then I get a call. My parents drove my car from Atlanta to California because I needed a car. They get there, and the next day I'm dropping them off at the airport. And as I drop them off, I get a phone call saying, hey, we're promoting you to High A. So High A is in Washington State.
Yep.
And so now I have to hop in the car and drive all the way to Washington.
Yep.
And then I stay there for a month and a half, and then I get a phone call saying, hey, we're sending you to Double A. And I'm like, oh, like this is getting real.
Yeah, for sure.
Once you get to Double A, like that's when you're like a call away from the big leagues.
Yep. Yeah. You're close. You're close.
And so, and that's in Huntsville, Alabama. So I had to come all the way back across the country to then. And so back then, and you know this, housing was not paid for.
Mm-mm.
Like
No.
teams did not provide housing. So you had to find it on your own.
Yeah.
So doing that in 3 different locations with minimum paychecks, that was before they raised our paychecks.
Yeah. That was probably very brutal.
Yeah, it was tough. And so I ended the year there in AA, and then I spent all of 22 in AA and had a really good year. And then that off season was my Rule 5 year.
Yeah. Yeah. And okay. Yeah. And this is where I saw you this offseason in Chipotle. Okay. You can continue. Go ahead.
So I get a phone call. I knew there was a possibility
Yeah.
that I was protected, but I still, to me, like I've kind of been the underdog the whole time. So I kind of felt like that wasn't going to happen.
You don't know until it happens.
Exactly. And so like literally 5 minutes before the deadline, it was like 6 p.m. on like a Thursday. I get a phone call saying like, hey man, congratulations, we just added you to the 40-man roster. And so I get that phone call, and it's like that was better than getting drafted.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet, because a lot of things. So if you can, because a lot of people don't know what that means. So if you can, and you're in, quick 30 seconds, can you explain what that means to get added to the 40-man?
So getting to the 40-man, you have to be on the 40-man to be brought up to the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not on the 40-man and they're going to promote you to the big leagues, they have to take someone off the 40-man.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're on the 40-man already, then that's an easy up to the big leagues. Teams have to make no moves to put you on the 40-man. So pretty much getting added to the 40-man is pretty much saying like you will be in the big leagues at some point next year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so when you get called and said you're getting added to the 40-man, that to me it was like, hey man, you're a big leaguer.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then pay goes up a little bit too, which at the time, that's a huge pay bump. From what I remember. So you got added to the 40-man, get off the phone. Well, what's your next thought? What is your thought after that?
Oh, I ran upstairs and told my parents, and they started crying.
Yeah. Like you'd already made it.
Yeah, like I hadn't made it yet, but like at the same time, like it felt like the team, in my perspective, the team was telling me I'm good enough to be in the big
leagues. And what that also, when you get added to the 40-man, what that tells you is that the Angels want you. They appreciate you and they want you, because there's, I don't know how many minor leaguers, and the fact that they added you to a list of of big leaguers, that's showing like, hey, okay, Kolton, we project this from you, and this is what we're gonna want from you, and we like you, so we're gonna protect you, because we don't want nothing to happen, because the Rule 5 draft comes up, and you can get taken. I've known several guys that were Rule 5 guys, and sometimes it works to your favor, but you would much rather get protected also.
No, yeah, absolutely. And so that happened, and it was like, the team, it's a different feeling when the team values.
For sure.
Because if you're just a regular minor leaguer, and I've never been on any prospect list,
mm-hmm.
I've never been on an organizational prospect list, nothing like that. So to get added and pretty much told that like we project you as a big leaguer, even though everyone else doesn't.
Yeah, that says a lot.
That's a good feeling, and so, but it also gave me that like extra edge to like really work hard in the off season to get where I need to go.
So let me stop you there, because I wanted to ask you about that. Do you feel like you learned from your junior to your senior year in college about what like that, because you had success in college, and your senior year didn't go as well? It seems like you took a step back mentally to, okay, now you're in pro ball, you get added to the 40-man. A lot of people, that they could do that same thing. So, but this time you change the mindset, like, hey, instead of being complacent, I was like, hey, let's go harder. So do you feel like you going through what you did in college helped you for that mindset change in pro ball?
Yeah, I mean, it was just that mental maturity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was just learning that like I've been in a similar situation, and I know how I handled it last time and it didn't work out. I know how I have to change that this time.
Yeah.
And so but I had to go through all those things, working those long days, working
Mm-hmm.
my butt off in the weight room, doing all these things to like, when that call was made, it was like a flip of the switch where it was like, this is real. Now this
Yeah.
is real. And so like, I either take this opportunity and run with it, or I sit back and let people pass me by. But
Yep.
I wasn't gonna. I had worked too hard at that
Yep.
point to let that pass me by. So I immediately got back to work.
Yep.
I was already working, going to weightlifting, and I was working out
Mm-hmm.
in Peachtree City and doing all those things. And it was kind of cool because the next day I'm getting in there, and I worked out at the time with a couple big leaguers,
Mm-hmm.
and one of those guys was Will Smith.
Yep. I worked out with
And
Will Smith also at EPI.
yeah, and so for him to tell me congrats on being added to the 40 man, like it felt like I had just gained respect.
Mm-hmm.
Now this guy views me as a big leaguer.
Yeah. And Will Smith is All-Star World Series, has been in the big leagues for I don't know how long. And he's coming to you like, hey, like it's almost like a welcome to the club type of thing.
Yeah, and it was an unreal feeling.
Yeah,
And so that just made you want to work that much harder.
for sure, man. Now that's a crazy experience. And so, you get added to the 40 man, you go back to spring training, go through the season, and your lifelong dream finally comes true. Walk us through, what happened for you getting that call. Like what happened that day? Like walk us through that. Because I remember, like seeing on Twitter, like, Kolton making it to the big leagues. I'm like, holy crap. Like for me, and this is my perspective, it was I was proud of you, but it was a pride thing because we've had so much talent come from like where we're from, like Luella and just Henry County in general. And the fact that, we finally had that guy that was able to break through. It was for me, I was proud, just to even say like I knew you and like you played with my brother. So walk us through, what that day was like for you.
So we were in Chattanooga,
Okay.
and we were playing the Lookouts, the Reds AA team. And I had like I had a pretty good stint. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. The beginning of the season that year, I went through a stretch where I walked 9 guys in 1/3 of an inning,
Oh,
or
okay.
2/3 of an inning. It was the worst stretch I had ever been through in my career. Like,
Wow.
the Southern League at that time was experimenting with new balls,
Okay.
and it added probably 10 inches of movement to every pitch.
Wow.
So I wasn't like spraying balls,
Mm-hmm.
but I was missing the strike zone by those 10 inches.
Yeah.
And I was just swimming in my head. Like, I was talking to my agent. I'm like, dude, like, I'm about to get DFA'd, and I ain't even been in the big leagues yet.
Right.
Like, I'm like freaking out, like mentally just messed up, like can't sleep at night,
Yeah.
just playing GM again, running scenarios through my head.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a month, I turned it around. I was throwing really well. I had a week stretch where like I was dominant, like I was dominating. And our manager comes in to the locker room after a game, and we had won, and he like sits everybody down, and my heart is racing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know someone's going up,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping it's me, and everybody in the locker room's looking at me like,
Yeah.
because
They
they
like
know.
people. Your teammates can read the room.
Yeah. And he ends the conversation, and he's like giving all these hints about someone going up, but
Yeah.
he doesn't say anything. And I'm like, okay. So the conversation ends, and everybody showers, and we get on the bus, and the coaches don't ride the bus. They have their own car.
Uh-huh.
So we're on the bus, we're pulling up to the hotel. Well, we stop like probably 200 feet from the door,
Mm-hmm.
and all the coaches are waiting outside their cars. And so as soon as the bus stops, and the coaches start to get on the bus, they've never done this. I've never seen
Right.
them do this. They start to get on the bus, and I immediately knew. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, I knew. My heart dropped. I went blackout. Like,
Yeah.
I knew. And then he gets on the bus. He goes, look, guys, I want to tell y'all, like, the bullpen's been doing really well. I know we've had some starters go down, so the bullpen's had to pick up some slack, but it just got shorter because Kolton Ingram's going to the big leagues. And like, I just remember everybody's like going crazy and like
Yeah.
screaming, and like I just remember like sitting there, like I don't even know if I heard him right. Like, I'm
Right.
just like,
Right.
frozen. And so get off the bus, stop everybody up, make some phone calls, and then the manager at the time, Phil Nevin, he calls me and he's like, "Hey man, welcome to the team. You'll be here
Yep.
tomorrow and you'll be hot and ready, active."
Yep.
And I was like, and that's kind of like when it really sunk in, is when he called me and said that, like, "Hey man, you're hot tomorrow."
Yeah.
But what was really cool was my first game, like, I didn't pitch that day, but
Hmm.
I flew out to Arlington to play the Rangers.
Okay.
Well, guess who's on the Rangers?
Who? Will Smith?
Will Smith.
Yeah, he was on the Rangers at the time. Okay. Yep.
So I go out to greet my family before the game, and Will Smith standing there.
Wow.
So it was just super cool that, like, that's the first person on the other team that I saw.
Yeah.
And he dapped me up and was like congratulating me, and I was just like, dude, this is sick.
Yeah. 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 So,
So
like, with all that happening, like internally, what was your? Because I'm sure like things went fast after that, up until like the moment. But what was your whenever that was, you got a chance to sit down and just kind of just take it in. What was that thought like?
dude, I walked into that locker room and I seen my jersey hanging up
Yeah.
in that locker, and like, Texas has got one of the best visiting clubhouses I'd ever seen in my life.
Nice.
And so I'm walking in there, my locker's neatly made, and my jersey's hanging up. I'm like sitting in my chair, and I'm like just looking at the jersey, man. I'm just like staring, and like I don't feel anything. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
like such in shock that I'm just like, I made it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here. And then that night we're in the bullpen, and Shohei hits a rocket, just like a 3-run bomb, just hits like
Yeah.
a moonshot. And I just remember everybody's like, the whole like stadium, because when you play with Shohei and Trout, every game feels like a home game.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
Because so many people are there to watch those two players, regardless of the Rangers or whoever else. They're there to watch those two players. So they have such a big following that, like, every game feels like a home game.
Right.
So when that stadium erupted, like, I was just like looking around, oh my God, like, this
Yeah.
is insane. Like, first of all, I am scared to death.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Like, I am terrified of, like, just heart's racing, adrenaline's up. Like, every time that phone ring, dude, I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is me, this is me, this is me. And I'm just like, good God. So then my debut came, and I didn't have the best debut. I was just, I let those feelings overwhelm me doing my job.
Yeah.
And so I get kind of roasted on Twitter from
Mm.
Angels fans and stuff like that, saying like, I ruined the season, and just, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right. Right.
But they didn't understand that, like, I've been the underdog for so long
Mm-hmm.
that, like, when I got to that moment, like, my emotions won.
Right. Which, I
It's
mean,
like,
anybody that's in your shoes, and honestly, anybody in general, if you make it, whether it's at the plate or on the mound, it happens. And you know what? And people who have been there before, who have played the game, honestly, in general, knows like, hey, like, it happens. Because at the end of the day, yeah, you're one of the 1% of the 1% that make it to the big leagues, but you're still a human. So yeah, at the end of the day, you had to stand on that mound and throw. Yeah, emotions get to you. That's part of it. Now, with that being said, you learn from that, and you take that with you, because you're gonna have another opportunity, obviously, and you learn, like, okay, like, I'm here. So what you got there, you had your moment, and you're still there. What now, being in the off season, what have you been able to take away from 2023 season?
well, I mean, at that point, I'd gotten sent back down to
Mm-hmm.
AAA. Did really well in AAA.
Yeah.
Like, I know I could.
Yeah.
And I spent, like, I went up and down like three times, and had some like good outings and not so good
Mm-hmm.
outings. It was a learning year for me. I only have 5 innings in the big leagues,
Okay.
but I think the takeaway that I have is, like, even though that you're playing in front of 50,000 people on TV, facing your heroes, all, like,
Mm-hmm.
I still know that I am good enough to perform at that level, and the team believes that I am good enough to perform at that level, or else I wouldn't be here.
That's true. They don't just call people up for nothing.
No. And so it's more of a it's a mental that's when you talk about the mental side of the game. It was completely mental for me. It was like I have the stuff to play in the big leagues. It's a
Right.
matter of like I can't let the emotions get the better of me. And
Right.
so when I at the end of the day, it's baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the end of the day, like you're up there to get that guy out.
Yeah.
Like that's all that matters. You take away all of the media, all of the, celebrity type things, like
Yep.
none of that matters because
Yeah.
it is still baseball. And it helped going back down to AAA because I was able to face former big leaguers
Mm-hmm.
and I would get those guys out. So it's like, I
Yeah.
know I can do it.
You know you can do it, right?
So now it's a matter of like believing that I can do it when I'm in the big leagues and letting go of the excess stuff and just go out there and compete. So I got so caught up in fear of failure at the big league level that I lost myself for a moment in time to where I had zero confidence in my ability.
Mm.
But there was a good group of guys up there. I talked to a lot of guys, and it's funny because they go through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody in the big leagues at one point in their career has doubted themselves, has lost confidence, has felt lost, like all the
Absolutely.
time. And so, like, for me to feel like that I was the only one was naive because I'm
Yeah,
not.
for sure. I completely agree because with that being said, I mean, you are in a sport that is really difficult and everybody is, I don't care who you are. I mean, anybody who's made it to the big leagues has probably that first year, those first maybe couple weeks, they had that dang, like, am I supposed to be here? Like, how do I get back? Like all those. So the feelings that you had are, you're not gonna be, you weren't the first and you're not gonna be the last to have those same exact feelings that you were having.
Yeah. And so
So
that to me is like I have to be mentally mature enough to understand that failure is a part of this game
mm-hmm.
and that I can't be afraid of it because
Yeah.
I got so afraid of it that like it gets to a point where you're sitting in the bullpen hoping they don't call your name.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like that everywhere else. But for
Yeah.
some reason, I felt that there. And I think my last outing of the year, I was hoping they called my name.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we had played the Rangers again,
Okay.
and it was against the Rangers. And I think I punched out the side.
Okay.
And it was like an eye opener to where it was like, wow, I can do this.
Yeah, it was like full circle for your first outing to the last outing of the year.
Yeah, I was like, that gave me the confidence I needed going into this next year. Was like, I didn't have a good debut, and then I threw good, and then I didn't have a good outing, and then I threw good, and it was like, okay, now I know how the ups and downs go.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a matter of making sure that like mentally that I no matter what happens, and this goes along with everything that I went through high school, college, first stages of pro ball, like I never once doubted myself then, so why am I doubting myself now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But you get so caught up in like being there that it's not even like the talent that you're afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
You're just afraid of you.
Yeah.
And
That's a
so
good point.
that's what I had to balance and fight was like I'm always going to have these feelings of not feeling like I'm good enough to be here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you are, and you're only going to be as good as you think you are. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest takeaway for me is just understanding that like I'm here for a reason. I'm here because people believe in me. Now I need to believe in myself.
Absolutely. I think that's the if more people in sports, not even just baseball, more people in sports could get that same thing you just said, a lot more people will be successful. And I'll rephrase that. A lot more people will live up to their potential. Because not everybody's good. There are people, like, that's just the name of the game. But there's so many guys that have all the potential in the world. They have the tools, or they have the work ethic, but they don't. They hold themselves back. So I completely agree with you, man. So don't want to keep you too much longer. Just a couple more questions. Um, what would you say to the Kolton of 17-year-old Kolton? If you had to give 17-year-old Kolton advice, what would that be?
You're not working hard enough.
Mm.
Like at 17-year-old me, like like I said earlier, I know kids nowadays have access to all this stuff and it
Yep.
can get a lot, but I had access to none of it.
Mm.
So I definitely would. I didn't take nutrition serious, sleep and recovery serious. I didn't take any of that serious. So I would honestly go back and say work harder. Like
Mm.
you're going to get to college, you're going to get to pro ball, you're going to get to the big leagues, and you're going to realize at every single level there is someone outworking you,
Yep.
and it's your
Absolutely.
decision to work harder.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, and I tell people, because I train a lot of kids, and I tell people, so I'm like, look, man, like you and once again, going back to what I said earlier, everybody's ceiling is different. You know, some people's ceiling is the big leagues, some people is college ball, and some people is pro ball, some is high school. At the end of the day, you just want to live up to what your ceiling is. Now, with that being said, how are you going to outwork that person that is in California or that's in North Carolina or that's in Florida that has the same ceiling as you, that wants the same scholarship or place as you? What are you going to do different? Because I guarantee there's more than not people outworking you right now. Work ethic is a huge part of not even just sports, but in life in general. Even with even with my like right now, I mean, I have a newborn. I with work, with lessons, with working out, with my newborn, like you have to. It's work. To make sure all that is in line. And for you, obviously making it to the big leagues, but not even just that. Honestly, your career, your work ethic is what, in my opinion, at least, your work ethic is what got you to where you are now. I mean, like you said, you didn't have all the tools that whoever did on Perfect Game with the 10 rating, but you were the one that got up at 5 a.m. in the morning in college and worked out. You were the one that dove into learning how to pitch and learning the analytics behind pitching. So it's just keeping that same mindset and knowing like those things, the work ethic part, you can wake up one morning and do that. So that's the things that you got to really dive into.
Yeah, and for me, it's like you don't necessarily when you're talking about working harder than someone else. You talked about California, Florida, and in my perspective, I don't care what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how hard they're working
Mm-hmm.
because I could go in a weight room and someone out bench me, out squat me, out deadlift me. That's all fine and dandy, but how many days a week do they do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to beat them on discipline and consistency.
Yep.
Like I may not be the strongest guy in the room, the fastest guy in the room, or throw the hardest in the room, but that doesn't mean I can't study more than them.
Yeah.
Learn about my body more than them because everybody's body's different. That
Yep.
doesn't mean that because they have natural talent, they throw harder, but I'm gonna out work ethic them
For sure.
because that's gonna last a lot longer than talent.
That's true. That is true. I completely agree, man. Well, last question. We can make this one quick. The mental side of the game, mental toughness. How important is that when it comes to being successful in sports?
So to me, I think everybody that's in pro ball, like they don't draft you because they don't think you can make it to the big leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in pro ball is good enough to play in the big leagues. Good enough. But not everybody has the mental capacity to play in the big leagues.
Mm.
So mental health for me is everything. Like if going back to what I said on believing in yourself, not losing confidence, all of these things play a role in your physical ability.
Yeah.
Because, like you going out in public with sweatpants and a hoodie on, you're not feeling as confident as the new fit you bought for wherever. Like you feel way more confident in that. It's the same thing. Like if you are mentally feeling good about where you're at physically, you're going to play better.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the old saying that when we were kids, where it's like, look good, play good.
Yeah. Facts.
Like if you're wearing pants that are too big and all this stuff and you don't feel comfortable, like you're not going to play good.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in the big leagues. If you are feeling good, you know that your process is solid, your discipline and your consistency is there, and mentally that you're in a good spot, you're going to perform well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people focus on the physical aspect of it, and that's all that's great. That's, that's a big part of it.
Right.
But if your mental state won't let you perform to the level of what you've worked on, it don't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
So
sure.
for me, the mental game is everything when you're up there or anywhere.
Anywhere. Yeah, I agree. Because even going back to college, you get to college and there has to be some, because you got there and you're there for a reason. There has to be some form of the mental side, because at the end, especially I can speak from a hitter's perspective. If I fail 3 out of 10 times in hitting, like I'm batting 300, I'm doing good. But how can you deal with that 70% clip of striking out or popping up or grounding out or lining out? Like that's the tough part about the game. So I completely agree with you, man. The mental side of sports and mental side of being in the big leagues or in baseball is honestly the most important thing, in my opinion. It really is.
Yeah, I can't stress it enough. That is the big determining factor of you playing to the best of your ability.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, man, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day, during the off season to come speak with me, man. Once again, I'm so proud of you, big dog. You're making a lot of people, really proud of you. And, just hearing your story, man, from where you started to where you are now, it's a testament of your work ethic and your mental toughness, so, keep doing your thing, man. Keep working hard this off season. And, hopefully I'll see you around sometime here soon. But if not, have a great 2024, man. I'm expecting big things from you this year.
Well, I appreciate it, brother.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, this concludes the episode of Faith Fitness and Fastball. Once again, you guys subscribe, like, comment. Kolton, appreciate you, man. Y'all take care.
Yeah, thank you.